Namaste. Hello everyone. I am back with a new topic, new chapter for 10th class history, nationalism in India. So today we are going to discuss about nationalism in India. What do you mean by nationalism? That is, as we all know, we had a very great struggle for getting our freedom. So that struggle was almost for many years, more than 100 years. People fought for freedom. And we all know that we were ruled for many centuries by foreigners. And finally, in the end, we were into a imperialistic rule by the British, who ruled us officially for more than 200 years. And before that, they were they had come to our country, in which way they came as traders, and then they saw the situation in our country, and then they became our rulers. So before starting the chapter, children, I would like to share some of the things. As we all know that Europeans ruled us for several years, that is right from almost they entered our country, the Europeans entered our country in the early 15th century. Only till that time trade was going on. But after 15th century, these Europeans tried to have a hold on our country, and they wanted to rule our country. So many Europeans tried. That is why I am saying many Europeans, many countries of Europe, they tried to come. Britishers were the last and the powerful rulers for us from Europe. But before that, right in the beginning, Portuguese had come. As we all know, Vasco da Gama only discovered a new sea route to India, and he came to India with a new sea route in the year 1498. Then afterwards, slowly, the Dutch came. After Dutch, French came. After French, British came. British came in the last, and then they could drive away the Portuguese or the Dutch or the French by waging wars with them in our country. And how they could show their power, or they could show their authority, is what happened when the existence of Portuguese was there, existence of Dutch was there, existence existence of French was there. But what happened? All these Europeans or the foreigners, what they saw is there was not much unity among our own kingdoms in India, because India was ruled by various kingdoms, various regions, and there was no unity with the neighboring kingdoms. So what happened? The support came from these outsiders. These traders, they could gain lot of hold in the regions, and they took permissions, they took monopoly rights for the trade, and then slowly they took some favors from the officials of the various kingdoms, and then finally they started supporting those small kingdoms in favor of their trade and other positions. So in this way, Two kingdoms were fighting each other with the support of French in one side, British in the other side. In this way, they could bring their strong hold on India. And finally, what happened? One of the Europeans was sent out, and the other had good position, and they took the powers into their hands. And finally, all the kings or these kingdoms became puppets for those Britishers. So the Portuguese were made into a limited hold on areas near Goa. All Goa was under the Portuguese. The same way Dutch had only in the place of Diu and Daman in Gujarat. And then the French had hold only in the Pondicherry, and then one more part called Yanam in Andhra Pradesh. These were under the control of French. Remaining all were taken away by the British, and British could establish a big empire in our country. So before that, when the British came here, it was called as East India Company. East India Company took permission from the Queen of England, and then they came as traders and they could establish their rule. And after 1857 war, what we call the first war of independence, then all the powers were handed over to the Queen of England, and from that time it is officially said as the British rule. Till that time it was the rule was under control was under the British East India Company. Later on it became British rule, and after 1857 India was considered as the uh, uh, Queen Elizabeth. Before that, Queen Victoria, and they were considered as the Empress of India. So India became a very big empire for them. So this struggle went on, and then in 1885, Indian National Congress was formed. And then in the previous classes, you studied about the uh, groups in Congress also, like the moderates and other one also. So in this way, it went on, and the freedom struggle was going on. The requests were given to the British government for the freedom struggle and the better administration for India. And even they requested to make Indians also to get involved in the administrative systems. And that went on. And finally, the struggle increased. And now, in this chapter, coming to this chapter, we are going to learn a part of it, that is from the year say 1915 to 1940s. Only this part we are going to learn in this chapter. So that will be the beginning of the arrival of Mahatma Gandhi from South Africa, and then we are going to study about the Satyagraha movements, and then we are going to study about non-cooperation movement. We are going to learn about civil disobedience movement, in which we are going to learn about the salt satyagraha movements. All these things we are going to learn, and then right now we shall start with the beginning of the chapter, that is why we are studying right from the beginning of the year 1915, when Mahatma Gandhi arrived from South Africa. Mahatma Gandhi was practicing as an advocate in South Africa. And even you all know that South Africa also was one of the colony of the British. So when in South Africa also there were many movements going on for the freedom struggle, and many Indians and the blacks were participating, and in those movements he was also participating, and his presence was observed by Indian nationalist Congress leaders in here in India, especially Gopal Krishna Gokhale. He was one of the senior most Congress leader who invited Gandhiji to come back to India, and whatever struggle was doing there, that is needed in our country in India. So he was called back. So finally Gandhiji arrived in India on 14 January 1915. When he came to India, so he was welcomed in the Congress, Indian National Congress, and then he was given a position in the Congress leadership. But Gandhiji said, no, first let me go around, travel all the country and see the situation of the people, and then later on he would decide what to do. And after arrival of Gandhiji, there were a lot of changes or a lot of movements which were started. And before knowing all this or studying all this, what was the global scenario of the world during that time? Why we need to check the world first, and then we should come to India. We should learn, we should know about the situations in India, because global effect will be there. So you all know First World War was going on. That is, First World War started in the year 1914 and it continued up to 1918. That was almost for 4 years. World War was going on. Of course, World War was being fought in the Europe, but many of the Asian countries, many of the American countries, they all joined in the World War and they were fighting in two groups, Allies and Axis. So in these two groups, all the countries also they started supporting in different ways. So during this World War, what was the situation? The economy was in turmoil for almost all the countries in the world, which led to the Great Depression, which affected almost all the world economy, by which every country got affected with this Great Depression. So during the Great Depression, our situation was very bad. Our country's situation was very bad. So during the war, what was the situation? Because we were under the British rule, so the British suddenly, when the World War started, suddenly it started concentrating on the war. So much of the dependency was from our country, like food grains, war needed equipment, all these things. And mainly money was being spent on the war. So they depended much on the money. So what the British did in our country, we are going to start with that, and I am going to share some slides with you for your better understanding. So, the years following 1919 saw a huge spread of nationalism and people are in the people of India, and new modes of struggles were used. So that is after the World War. The World War One ended in the year 1918. But what was the situation? First of all, let us know what nationalism is. Nationalism is, it is basically the feeling of patriotism. What is patriotism? It is nothing but the affection, the love towards the country. I love my country. We say every day in the pledge, right? It is our patriotism, the affection. It also implies a significant unity among the people. For example, now anything happens in the country, any national disaster or national calamity or something. So first we see all the uh, citizens of our country, we fight for the nation. If any war happens, of any neighboring country attacks us, or any problem comes with the neighboring country, aren't we united? We are all united. So that is only unity among us. In this presentation, we will study the non-cooperation and civil disobedience movements and explore how Congress developed a national movement, mobilized the people, and also how different social groups participated in the movements differently. Impact of the First World War. What I was discussing with you regarding what was the impact of the First World War. This we need to know first. Then only we can go with the freedom struggle. It created an it created to an economical and political crisis. Crisis means here lot of problem and disturbances. That was There was a huge increase in defense expenditure, custom duties were raised, and income tax was introduced. Because British had lot of expenditure for its defense to fight the war. What they did to raise that money, they introduced custom duties. That is, whatever goods were exported or imported, they put lot of taxes on it. They increased the taxes. What they were collecting, they increased that slot also. And then income tax also was introduced. You know what is income. So we are paying taxes for our income to the government. So that also was introduced. Previously it was not there. So only to raise the income of the government of British, they introduced all these systems, and then they were raising the money for the war expenses. Through the years, prices were increases significantly, doubling between the year 1913 and 1918. During this war time, all the prices were increasing, and almost all the prices became double. Demand for soldiers increased, and forced recruitment took place in rural areas. Because to fight the war also they need soldiers. So their country that doesn't have that much sufficient soldiers in England. So what they did, they started recruiting soldiers from the colonies. That is, whichever countries they were ruling, from those countries they started recruiting soldiers. And you know how soldiers should be. They should be young, strong enough. They cannot select any children or the old people to fight the war. They want all the young people. So they forced from every village in the rural areas, they forced to recruit the young people, and they took. So all going to a war, who are remaining? The children, the women, and the old people. So this was against the people in the country. So that's why we call it as forced recruitment. Nobody can say no. Once the British came and they recruited, they were not allowed to say no, they have to go. That's why we call it as forced recruitment. This led to an extreme hardship for the common man, and also caused a widespread of anger. People were very angry because all this was going on. What we saw now, prices were increased, custom duties were increased, income tax was introduced, forced recruitment was going on, and with this there was a lot of hardship for the people. In the year 1918 to 1919 and 1920 to 21, there was a gap of 1 year in these two. Crops were failed in many parts of India, resulting to acute shortage of food. Because how the crops will fail? Either by the floods or by the drought. That is, no rains. Actually, many crops failed due to drought during these 2 years. So there was an acute shortage of food. Then came an influenza epidemic. What do you mean by influenza epidemic? It's a kind of disease which was contagious, and it was widespread all over the regions, by which many villages people started going away from their villages, migrating from some other place because in fear of that disease. In the year 1921, nearly 12 to 13 million perished as a result of plague epidemic. What is plague? Plague is a disease spread by the rats. So plague was very dangerous. There were no medicines at that time, during that time. So all the villages used to vacate. They used to evacuate the villages because of this disease, plague epidemic. So with these people got displaced, they lost their livelihood, they lost their occupation, and they were not able to even eat. There was shortage of food. All these problems were faced by the people. People hoped that their hardships would end after the war was over, but this did not happen. People thought after the World War, the British government will help them, they will do something, but nothing had happened during after the war also. So we were discussing about Mahatma Gandhi, right? Mahatma Gandhi comes into the scene, right? January 1915, Mahatma Gandhi returned to India. He had come from South Africa, where he successfully fought the racist regime with a novel method of mass agitation, which he called as Satyagraha. So, in South Africa, for the racist regime, what do you mean by racist regime? It is nothing but the racism was started by these Europeans, blacks, whites, colored people. They made separate, they separated the blacks Who are the blacks? The Negroes, who were actually the locals of the South Africa. In the African countries, you see all the Negroes. So these Europeans called them as the blacks. Who are the colored people? The Indians, the Asians who migrated to African countries. They were called as the colored people. The migrants were called as the colored people. And who were the whites? The Europeans. They were called as the whites. So there was a lot of fighting going on regarding this racism, because these whites, the Europeans, they were said as superiors, and the blacks and the colored people were the inferiors. So in that way there was a lot of disturbance, and then because they were ruling, so this racism started. So to protest this racism, Gandhiji also participated, and many other blacks and the colored people fought for this racism with a method of mass agitation. Mass means many people coming together, and then they are doing the strikes and agitation. This was named as a Satyagraha by Mahatma Gandhi. After learning about the injustice being done to the people, he decided to fight against them through Satyagraha. So what is the idea of Satyagraha? It promotes the idea of truth and non-violence. So Gandhiji was against violence. So he wanted all the protest, all the agitation must go with non-violence. And idea of truth. Truth should be there. The idea of Satyagraha emphasized the power of truth and the need to search for it. It is very important. See, before continuing, the racism present situation, just we are having what is the present situation. All the world is fighting for the COVID-19, the corona, the dreadful disease which has spread all over the world, and uh, lockdown was there for all over the country, all the countries in the world, almost all countries. After during this time, now a new thing happened in United States of America. What happened? A African American was killed because of the police. His name was Floyd. So after that, what happened? Lot of protests came regarding racism again. Not only in England, it spread to other European countries and other countries also, American and African countries also. Lot of uh, agitations are going on regarding the same racism what we are discussing now. So now, idea of Satyagraha. The idea of Satyagraha emphasized the power of truth and the need to search for it. So all these points you find in your textbook. These are the key points. Very, very important. So you need to learn all these. The idea of Satyagraha emphasized the power of truth and need to search for it. It suggested that if cause is true and if the struggle was against injustice, a Satyagrahi could win the battle with non-violence. So Gandhiji believed in non-violence. So the people who follow it are called as Satyagrahis. Without using violence of any form, a Satyagrahi could win the battle by appealing to the conscience, conscience of the oppressor. Here, who is the oppressor? The British. So we can win the battle by appealing to the conscience. So we need to request the British. We should request them, and then we should try to negotiate with them, and without using violence we should bring the freedom. This can be done by persuading the people, including the oppressor, to see the truth, what is truth, to make them to understand instead of being forced to accept the truth. So we need to show them. That was Gandhiji's idea. Gandhiji believed that this idea could unite the Indians. He wanted to unite the people. He wanted to bring unity among the people and then fight for the freedom struggle. Implementation of Satyagraha. To start with what he did, he brought a movement called Satyagraha movement. How he implemented. In the year 1916, Gandhiji traveled to Champaran in Bihar. Champaran is a place in Bihar to inspire the peasants. Who are the peasants? The farmers, to struggle against the oppressive plantation system. He gave support to the peasants of Champaran in Bihar to struggle against the British for the oppressive plantation system. In previous classes, you studied about this oppressive plantation system. What was it? That was the British were forcing the farmers to grow indigo. Indigo means what? That's a type of a flower which is grown, which is processed and then used for the textile mills. Now we say Neel, blue, which is used for washing our clothes. Little they use. Now presently we say Robin blue or Rani Pal, that is available in the market. Or in Telugu you say Neelam, and all the washermen, dhobis, use this during washing the white colored clothes more. You see a blue shade there. That is because they use this indigo. So that is used in the textile mills. After they manufacture the cloth has to be washed. So for washing those clothes, they use this indigo. So the Britishers were forcing to grow indigo, but the farmers were reluctant to grow. The reason is, once they do indigo plantation in their fields, in their lands, the soil loses its fertility. And once if the soil loses fertility, they cannot grow any other crops. That's why the farmers were very reluctant to grow indigo. So in support of these farmers, as the farmers were struggling and they were protesting the British that they do not want to grow indigo. For supporting these farmers, Gandhiji went to Champaran in the year 1916 and organized a Satyagraha movement there. The same way, next is in the year 1917, he organized another Satyagraha movement to support the farmers and the peasants of Kheda district of Gujarat. In Gujarat, Kheda is one of the region. It is a district where he organized a Satyagraha. Why he supported these farmers? Because these farmers, they could not earn anything, they could not grow anything because there was a drought. There were no rains, and the British was forcing them to pay the taxes, revenue. As the peasants were protesting against the British that they could not pay the revenue because they could not get any harvest. So to support these farmers, Gandhiji organized a satyagraha in the year 1917. Affected by the crop failure and a plague epidemic, the peasants could not pay the revenue and demanded relaxation. They were demanding the relaxation. So to support this, Gandhiji went for a satyagraha. And again, in the year 1918, again Gandhiji traveled to Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad also one of a one of the city in Gujarat. He went to organize a satyagraha movement amongst the cotton mill workers. Here, Ahmedabad was a city where many cotton mills were established by the British in the early 20th century. So during this time, the workers were suffering a lot in the cotton mills. What were they suffering? They did not get proper wages. They did not get much security, or their lives were risk in the mills where they were working. There was no security for them, and if they work for overtime also, wages were not paid. So the mill workers were protesting for this. So Gandhiji went and supported them and organized a satyagraha movement there. Then, looking all this, a big move was started by Gandhiji in the year 1919. 1919, after gaining popularity with these three satyagrahas, Gandhiji decided to launch a nationwide satyagraha against the proposed Rowlatt Act. What is Rowlatt Act? Rowlatt is the name of a judge who wanted to introduce this act. That's why it was called as Rowlatt Act. It gave the government enormous powers to repress political activities. Repress means to stop the political activities by the nationalists. Who are the nationalists? The people who are struggling for the freedom. And allowed detention. Detention means arresting the people or taking those people under their control, and detention of political prisoners without trial. Whoever they arrested, these national leaders or the nationalists, whomever the British police arrested, they can punish them. Detention means punishment. So they can punish them without any trial. Here trial means without any case, without any court. Directly they can punish them, take them and put them in the prisons, or give direct punishment to these nationalists. So this act was not accepted by the people in India. They wanted to bring it as a law. Rowlatt Act is nothing but a law implemented by the British. So Gandhiji wanted to fight this by adopting non-violence, by organizing activities like hartals. Here in the slide there is a small spelling mistake. Hartal, Hartal. S, hartals. It's a Hindi word. What we call it as strike. Nowadays we are saying bandh. So it is nothing but bandh. Hartal means strike in English, we call. Rallies were organized in various cities. Workers went on strike in railway workshops, and all the shops were closed down. All the mills were closed. So, with this movement, scared the British very much. They were afraid. Local leaders were picked up from Amritsar, and Gandhiji was barred to enter Delhi. He was not allowed because he wanted to address a rally in Delhi on 10th April. But Gandhiji was barred to allow to enter Delhi, and all the leaders were main prominent Congress leaders from almost all cities in India. They were arrested. 10th April, what happened? The police in Amritsar, this all in the year 1919. This all happened during the month of April. On 10th April 1919, the police in Amritsar fired upon a peaceful procession, provoking widespread attacks on banks, post offices and railway stations. A peaceful procession or a rally was going where the police fired on them, and suddenly what happened? The people became violent. They started attacking. Why they started attacking on banks, post offices and railway stations? This was because all these belonged to the government, British government. That's why they attacked on banks, post offices and railway stations. So with this what happened? The people became violent, lot of riots happened, and then lot of looting took place, and to control all this, the British had to call the army, and then they implemented very strict martial law in Amritsar. What do you mean by martial law? When the police cannot control the situation, they call the army, and the army will take control of all the situation. Law and order will be under the control of the army. This is called the martial law. So after this April 10th incident, on 13th April, strict martial law was imposed in Amritsar. One of the army officer, General Dyer, took command, and the what happened? He took command, and suddenly on that day, infamous Jallianwala Bagh incident took place. What is that Jallianwala Bagh incident? It's a place. Jallianwala Bagh is a place in Amritsar, a very big ground where people had gathered on 13th April, a crowd of villagers who had come to Amritsar to attend a fair. Fair means a gathering or a celebration was there because it was an annual Baisakhi festival. What is Baisakhi? It's a harvesting festival which is common in the northern parts of India. Like what we celebrate Sankranti in Andhra and Telangana, or in the southern parts of India, Sankranti or Pongal, like that. The same way, Ugadi also is a harvesting festival. Like Ugadi, they celebrate Baisakhi in northern parts of India. So these villagers did not know about the martial law, what is curfew, what is martial law. They did not know. They were unaware of it. So they came to Amritsar and they had gathered in the ground of Jallianwala Bagh. It was enclosed, surrounded with a huge compound wall and a small gate entrance from the lanes and by lanes. So being from outside the city, they were unaware of people were unaware of the martial law and had been imposed. So General Dyer took this advantage and he came to Jallianwala Bagh entrance, even though his trucks and uh, guns were not able to enter in the lanes of entrance of Jallianwala Bagh. He made his army people to march by walk. They entered and blocked the exit points. Exit points means the gates. They blocked the gates and he told his soldiers to open fire without any intimation. He opened fire on the crowd, killing hundreds of people. And there was a well in that Jallianwala Bagh where many people even jumped into the well. Women, children, many people were killed. His object, after when his object was that he declared later was to produce a moral effect, and he wanted to create in the minds of the people, in the Indian minds, to create a terror and awe. A fear should be there about the British. That's why he did this. But many people died there. As the Jallianwala Bagh news spread, the strikes, clashes with the police, and attacks on the government increased. The government countered this with brutal repression, seeking to humiliate and terrorize people. They started humiliating the people. How? Insulting. Humiliate means insult. Wherever people were nationalists were found on the roads, they were made to bow down, make salute to the British people, and then they were made to rub their noses on the roads. All these things were being done, and lot of lathi charge, beating the people, flogging the nationalists. Seeing the violence spread, Mahatma Gandhi called off movement. After all this violence, Mahatma Gandhi wanted to stop this movement. So he stopped this movement. So what were the limitations of the Rowlatt Act? Though Rowlatt Act was widespread and broad, Gandhi felt it wasn't broad enough to bring about a change. The only way to launch a more widespread and effective movement was to bring the Hindus and Muslims closer together. Rowlatt Act, because it was repression without a trial, nationalists were arrested, there was no trial, and minimum of 2 years of imprisonment was there in this Rowlatt Act. So after effects of this widespread movement in the country, Gandhiji felt that more we have to launch more satyagrahis. We need to train the satyagrahis, and then we need to bring more unity among the people in India. Mostly there were two religions, Hindus and the Muslims. He wanted to bring them united, and more mass spread agitations were needed. So he wanted to bring Hindus and Muslims together, and unity was to be increased. So he decided to take advantage of the Khilafat issue. What is that Khilafat issue? Khilafat movement it was called. How this name came Khilafat? As the first war ended with the Ottomans' defeat. Who is Ottoman? Ottoman is a place. It was a very big empire in Europe. Ottoman Empire. Now you see a small part in your world map, a country called Turkey. Turkey was previously called as the Ottoman Empire and it spread to much of Europe, which was ruled by a Muslim emperor. His he is called as the Ottoman Emperor. Now we call it as Ottoman Turkey. Ottoman Turkey. After the World War I, Ottoman Emperor got defeated and his empire got displaced into small countries. Now you see Bosnia, Serbia, like that there are many other countries. At that time Yugoslavia. Now even that also got displaced into 5 smaller countries. Like that all these countries were under the Ottoman Empire before World War I. So after the Ottoman Emperor's defeat, the Ottoman Emperor had to sign a very humiliating treaty to the allies. So where in this treaty, when this treaty was signed, even the Ottoman Emperor was not allowed to go out of his palace like a house arrest, and he was not even allowed to go to the his religious place like Makkah or Medina in the Saudi Arabia. So like that he was even demilitarization took place and he was not supposed to keep his army, and then almost it was very insulting treaty for the Ottoman Emperor. And this Ottoman Emperor was called as Khalifa. Khalifa is an Arabic word which is called as spiritual head of the Islamic world. He was like a godfather, like a guru for all the people all over the world, for all the Muslims. He was the head. Ottoman Emperor was the head. That's why he was called as Khalifa. So from this word Khalifa, this Khilafat movement was started. Because of the harsh treaty which was signed and the punishment what was given to the Ottoman Emperor, Ottoman Empire, so all the Muslims all over the world want to show their protest. So that's why the Muslims of India wanted to show their protest against the British. So that's why there were two brothers from the in Bombay who were called as the Ali brothers, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali. These two brothers, these Muslim brothers, they were angry. They wanted to show their anger, and they were uh, bringing all the Muslims together to show their protest to the British about the treaty or the situation which came to the Ottoman Empire, the punishment given to the Ottoman Emperor. So defend the Khalifa's temporal powers. A Khilafat committee was formed in Bombay in March 1919. Young Muslim leaders began discussing with Gandhi about the possibility of a united mass action on the issue. He took the advantage, Gandhiji took the advantage, and in 1920 he convinced other leaders of the Congress to start a non-cooperation movement in support of Khilafat movement along with Swaraj. What is Swaraj? Swaraj is freedom. So they mixed all the things. Non-cooperation movement, they called it to support the Khilafat movement and the Swaraj. So non-cooperation movement was started in the year 1920. Gandhiji felt that British rule had survived in India only because of the natives' cooperation. Because people were cooperating, they were listening. Whatever the British asked, we were following, we were doing. And without our cooperation, if the people do not cooperate, they cannot run the show, they cannot do the administration. So it would collapse. So this was the idea of Gandhiji. He declared that the movement should begin with the surrender of the government awarded titles. What was that government awarded titles? Titles means in those days British used to give some title. What was the title? Like Sir, Rao, Bahadur, Raja Bahadur, like that they used to give titles to the people who helped the British government or who supported or who did some good services to the British government. So the people should surrender, give back the titles. Now in education field, if a student completes his MBBS, he is given a name, doctor. So before their name they write doctor, DR, like that. That is nothing but a title given by the university. So they have to surrender the government awarded titles and a boycott of civil services. Whatever the administrative officers who are doing the high level works for the government, British government, they want to boycott. They should leave the jobs. They should resign the jobs. Army, police, courts, and legislative councils. Legislative councils means the elected members of the local bodies. They should not contest the elections, they should boycott. Schools, children should not go to the schools, teachers should not go to the school to teach, and boycott all the foreign goods. They should not buy any of the British goods. They should use only local manufactured goods. Then a full civil disobedience campaign would be launched. So the government cannot function properly. This non-cooperation movement began in January 1921. Various social groups participated in this movement, each with its own specific aspirations, with their own specific ideas. All of them responded to the call of Swaraj, but the term meant different things to different people. Different people thought of different way of Swaraj in this non-cooperation movement. We shall go with that movement. What was the movement in towns? Thousands of students left the government schools and colleges. Headmasters, teachers resigned, and the lawyers gave up their legal practices. They stopped going to the courts. The council elections were boycotted in most of the provinces except Madras. Except in Madras. In Madras, what happened? All the elections or the council members always they had much in the upper caste levels. So when they resigned, what happened? The other caste people, they did not boycott these elections. They contested the elections and they wanted power. The effects of non-cooperation on the economic front were more dramatic. Foreign goods were boycotted. People stopped buying foreign goods. Liquor shops picketed. Picketed means they did not allow them to open the shops. People went there in mass gathering and sat in front of the liquor shops. And foreign cloth burnt in huge bonfires. Huge bonfires were made in the towns, and they burnt all the foreign cloth, and they stopped buying the foreign goods. The import of foreign cloth halved between 1921 and 1922, its value dropping from 102 crores to 57 crores. The import stopped because people stopped buying the goods. As the boycott movement spread, the people began discarding imported cloths and wearing only Indian ones. Production of Indian textile mills and handlooms went up. Whatever Indian textile mills were selling in during this time, handmade handlooms or handmade cloth like khadi, that gained momentum. The people started buying only the Indian made cloth. But this movement in the cities gradually slowed down because of variety, many reasons were there. So some of the reasons, khadi cloth was often more expensive than the mass produced mill cloth, because in mill mass production was there and machine made cloth, so cost was cheaper, and khadi was only handmade by the weavers, and people could not afford to buy because it was very expensive. Similarly, the boycott of British institutions posed a problem. For the movement to be successful, alternative Indian institutions like schools, colleges were not existing, and alternative Indian institutions had to be set up so that they could be used in place of British ones. So that much uh, availability was not there. So there were no alternative schools or colleges or institutions. So people had to slowly limp back to those schools and colleges or those courts and all. So students and teachers began trickling back to government schools, and lawyers joined back to work in government courts. There was no alternative for them. The peasant movement, the people in countryside took the meaning as Swaraj in a different way. For example, in Awadh, before 1920, peasants were suffering a lot because of the oppressive landlords and talukdars. What do you mean by talukdars and landlords? Even we call patidars in the Gujarat area or in the Uttar Pradesh parts of North India, all the landlords were called as talukdars or patidars. When Nehru came across this, he set up Audh Kisan Sabha to help them, and soon 300 branches of it was set up. How this Audh Kisan Sabha was set up? There was a person called Baba Ramchandra. Who was this Baba Ramchandra? He was a migrated laborer who had went to Fiji. He was an indentured laborer, but he escaped from there, from the British, and he came back and he became a sannyasi. Sannyasi means who doesn't have any work or any family or house. So he will be wandering from one place to another. So he was supporting the peasants in Awadh. Awadh is a place in Uttar Pradesh. So there he started a movement. So that's why he was called as Baba Ramchandra. So Baba Ramchandra, he started uh, helping out these peasants, and they started doing bandh. Many movements. In June 1920, Jawaharlal Nehru came across all these and decided to set up Awadh Kisan Sabha, and it was merged with this non-cooperation movement. But before that, there was even Nai Dobi Bandhs were set up in during this movement by Baba Ramchandra. What do you mean by Nai Dobi movement Bandh? Nai means a barber, one who cuts the hair. Dhobi, you all know, Dhobi is nothing but washerman. So this Nai Dhobi Bandh was started by Baba Ramchandra. What is this Nai Dhobi Bandh? They these services, they were giving the services to the rich class people, the landlords, the talukdars. Though they stopped going and giving these services to them. So with this, what happened? The people cannot live without a dhobi or without a haircut. So such services were stopped. Like even domestic workers, they stopped going to these people. So all this included in this non-cooperation movement. So when non-cooperation movement began following the following year, the effort of the Congress was to integrate the Awadh peasant struggle into the wider struggle. So when the non-cooperation movement began the following year, the effort of the Congress integrated the Awadh peasant struggle into the wider struggle. As the movement spread, the landlords were attacked, but there was a lot of popularity. This movement was spread almost all Uttar Pradesh, but when it spread, what happened? The landlords were attacked, their shops were looted, and all the grain hoards, means the godowns, were taken over, and the name of Mahatma was being invoked to sanction all these action and aspiration. Whatever violence was taking away, all these things, they started taking the name of Mahatma Gandhi, and they called this one also as a Swaraj. The movement among tribals. So how this movement was going on in the area of, in the tribal areas, in the forests, tribal peasants interpreted the message of Mahatma Gandhi and the ideal of Swaraj in yet another way. What happened in the tribals? The British had put, in ninth class you studied the Forest Act. The tribals were not allowed to go inside the reserve forest. They are not supposed to take any of the goods from there. They were not allowed to graze their cattle. All these things where the tribals had to face. So one of the case study we see here in the Gudam Hills of Andhra Pradesh. Where are these Gudam Hills? We call the almost all the eastern Ghats as the Gudam Hills of Andhra Pradesh. A militant guerrilla movement spread in the early 1920s. Guerrilla means the warfare hiding in the jungles, whatever movement we call, happens, we call them as guerrilla movement. Here, the colonial government has closed large forest areas, preventing people from entering the forest to graze their cattle or to collect fuel, wood, and fruits. This enraged the hill people. They were not allowed to collect any of the forest products. So the people were angry. When the government began forcing them to contribute Begar, what do you mean by Begar for road building? The hill people revolted. Begar means they have to do the work without any wages, free of cost, like indentured labor. So this, the people got angry and they started revolting, and the leader for this revolt was Alluri Sita Ramaraju. He was a man behind this And this leader who was thought to be an incarnation of God, people used to say that he is the incarnation of God, and he was inspired by non-cooperation movement, and he was a staunch follower of Gandhiji, but only in one thing, he never followed non-violence. He was saying that Swaraj can be brought by only violence. And even he used to tell people to wear khadi and give up drinking. But at the same time, he asserted that India could be liberated only by the use of force, not non-violence. This led to total destruction of non-violence. So the same way in plantations. What is the scenario of the plantation? Where do we most of the plantations were in Assam and West Bengal, and here the people who are working, the plantation workers were indentured labor who were forcibly brought to these places to work for them, and the plantations were completely surrounded by the compound walls, and the guards who used to punish them, they were not allowed to go out. For plantation workers in Assam, freedom meant to the right to move freely in and out of the confined space in which they were enclosed, and it meant retaining a link with the village from which they had come. Under the Act of 1859, plantation workers were not permitted to leave the tea gardens without permission, and were rarely given such permission. When they heard of non-cooperation movement, thousands of workers defied the authorities, left the plantations and headed to home. They wanted to go to their back to their homes. So these workers thought that is the Swaraj, that is the freedom, going back to their villages, their home, and doing agriculture in the small pieces of land what they had, or they can take. They, however, never reached their homes destination because Hartal strikes were going on, so no transportation, stranded on the way. But in the railway or the steamer strike, because of these strikes, they were caught by the police and brutally beaten up. So, the part of this chapter we will conclude with this conclusion. The vision of these movements were not defined by the Congress program. So they interpreted the term Swaraj in their own ways, and they could not gain the momentum. They wanted Swaraj, freedom, but everything got in such a way that somewhere Gandhiji was expecting non-violence, but violence took place, and the movement was understood in various ways in various areas. In towns, one type, plantations, another way, tribal areas, another way. Yet, when the tribals chanted Gandhiji's name and raised slogans demanding Swatantra Bharat, they were also emotionally relating to all India agitation. When they acted in the name of Gandhiji or linked their movement to that of Congress, they were identifying with a movement which went beyond the limits of their immediate locality. So all over India there was a movement, but in different ways. We shall continue in the next part.